Hi, I'm Justin Locklear, and this is another episode of Conversations in the Void. Tonight, we'll be talking to a new media artist who works in performance and gallery installations. He received his bachelor's in Intermedia Art from the College of Santa Fe and completed his MFA at the University of North Texas. He is currently a professor at both UNT and SMU. His most recent show, Cascade, was installed at Pariah in Dallas, Texas. And next, he'll be working with the Aurora Light Festival this fall. Sean Miller, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Justin.
I want to talk about your work. In the world of non-objective video or video painting, there's a lot of different achievable aesthetics, which can kind of be confusing if you don't know a lot about it. How did you arrive at what you make now?
Years of experimentation, and I started actually as a painter. That was my original ambition, and musician, and taking procedures of discovery from those mediums into video, which you're dealing with programming, you're dealing with designing your own tools or your own instruments that you then experiment with. So it's kind of like a multi-step process that requires a lot of attention in various phases. Like, I'm going to build this instrument that's going to do a certain thing. It's going to generate video. Now I'm going to figure out how to use it.
And the instrument, is that like a program? Okay.
Yeah, software.
Okay. And what would you say you make?
What would I say I make?
Yeah.
Video art.
Okay.
Would be
or at least
catch-all.
the aesthetic of what.
Oh, the aesthetic.
Yeah.
Most of this work is dealing with landforms, and in terms of thematic material, it's dealing with the studies of feedback, which manifest in the behaviors of matter. So it's a way of abstracting a function that's occurring all around us on the molecular level, on the universal level. These are behaviors that are happening, but we can see it in matter. We can see this kind of thing happen in water, or if we looked at the erosion of a river long term, these types of forms will sort of emerge. So that's kind of like the aesthetic or real world, maybe objective reference that I...
And so when someone looks at your work, what will they see that comes from those themes?
They will see the behaviors.
Okay.
They probably have to be clued in, and of course there's the opportunity for them to project their own meanings on it. And I hear, people seeing all kinds of imagery that, might not be what I intended, but that's fine as well, because the experience is really the most important aspect of it.
Absolutely, it's very visceral. The work, it's to me very swirling or organic and sometimes psychedelic. Do you feel the pressure to continue making the same type of video art? Or do you see yourself moving on to a different type? Or where do you see yourself as a video artist? That's a better question.
Well, currently I'm fairly content with what I'm doing, but I'm also I've got like a couple years ahead on the table planning, what possible things that I could do. There's also there's growing with the technology. So as computers become more powerful, or my access to computers is magnified, I can do things that I might have thought of a couple years ago that just weren't possible with what I had my hands on.
Okay.
So there's that aspect, but yeah, I don't, currently, like the aesthetic we were just talking about, I've been doing that for a couple years, and it's definitely growing, and there are different offshoots or different aesthetic directions, but I've envisioned other, so the piece here at Pariah it sort of suggests this space, this alternative kind of reality, this experience of sound and video and sculpture and space all coming together, and you walk in and you're immersed in that. But there are other ways to approach immersion. Integrating the body, for instance, is another avenue, working with upholstery or creating objects for the body to interact with.
Are you talking about mapping with the body, or when you say with immersion with the body, describe what that
actually
is.
Like creating an architecture that in some way addresses the human form, as it's a venue for the human to enter into and experience. So in a piece like Cascade at Pariah, that was pretty much a person walks in, there's certain attention to where are the projectors, where's the object, how is the space utilized, but it could go further. It could go to crawling through some kind of structure or going into that kind of Ernesto Neto territory. And
what would that look like?
Probably similar to his work, actually, but incorporating video, but think forms that are organic, that in some way you can sit in or be situated in.
Right.
So that's something that disrupts our kind of like just typical angular environment that we're used to of like, living in a city or in a developed area, but creating a synthetic, organic world.
I love this. So you mentioned briefly where video art could be going. What is next, and when does it become something else? Like with the technology that's happening, is there a risk that it will stop being the same, or?
I think in some people are exploring video in a very different way, whereas I would say that my work directly relates to video art of the 70s of a certain type. Practiced by like Stena and Woody Vasulka or Gary Hill. Those are reference, people that I actually look at and am inspired by. But there's work that is video currently in new media that does not really have as much to do with that. And at that time period, there were other, people doing performance video, which is very different. It's more the human being in front of a camera, with some kind of simple gesture that's the piece. Whereas this is more about the artists I was talking about deal with the video signal. Mine is digital, so it already is a different thing, even though it's very much borrowing from that history and inspired by it. The fact that it's it's computerized or digital. There isn't this kind of constant or liquid-like quality that you get with analog video.
When you've completed a work, do you know when it's successful, or how do you gauge when a video piece is finished? So when people look at something, they see kind of how you arrived at what you did.
Well, determining when it's finished is interesting because without a deadline or a specific date or a piece that I'm supposed to make, I can just kind of work forever. It can constantly evolve, and those moments of it feeling like something are just experienced by me making it. So some of it is just the pressure of the deadline, and then it has to be finished. And then I evaluate the experience. I think I said earlier, like you have to be able to go into it and gain something from that in a kind of more phenomenological or experiential manner. So even if you don't get it at all, like you're like, well, that did something that affected me. Maybe it's optical and auditory, bodily, spatial, and nothing else. But then I think it does. When people spend time with a piece, they kind of start to understand where I'm coming from, or they start to see some of the things that I put in there.
Excellent. So for time, we're going to curtail the conversation for now, but I want people to know about your next work, which will be with the Aurora Light Festival. And when will that be?
That'll be on October 17th.
October 17th, this fall. We'll have more details in the comments below, as well as your website and your YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being with us. This has been Conversations in the Void. I've been Justin Locklear, and thank you for watching.